and welcome back to Friday 15. So several times on this program, we've spoken about smart buildings, but each time we've come at it at a different angle. So to recap what we've done until now. So we started off speaking to Etrit Demai. He's the co-founder of Code Labs. And what they do is the reporting of visibility that happens after the fact. So after you put in all your systems and your sensors in place, Code gives you that single pane of glass, so you can see everything in one system and monitor everything from one point of entry. Then last week, we spoke with Beth Eckenrode. She's a co-founder of Aurors Group, a consultancy here in Pittsburgh. And what they do is a physics-based modeling before the fact. So before you do your upgrades, before you do your renovations, they tell you what to expect in terms of your operations and sustainability when you go into a smart building project. So today, we're going to look at the technology itself. So see how it's built and how it comes together to make a smart environment. So let's pull up our agenda. So we're speaking to wtec Smart Engine. They are a building intelligence and lighting control platform, and we're going to have an understanding of the smart controls. Our guest today is Tim Miscovich. He is COO, Chief Commercial Officer, basically C-suite of wtec, and he has extensive experience putting smart buildings in. So he'll tell us that view from the field, like why do people do smart buildings? How do they do it? Just that kind of really practical information. And then we will end up with some recommendations and resources. So Tim, welcome to Friday 15.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, all right, wtec. Tell us, what is wtec?
So wtec's the manufacturer of the Smart Engine technology. It is, as you mentioned, a smart building and lighting control platform. So basically, we're going to give you best-in-class energy efficiency from the lighting aspect, but also deploy a fine mesh sensor network throughout the built space delivered over a traditional low voltage infrastructure to collect all that data to make a building truly sustainable and enable those smart building applications that we see becoming more and more prevalent in the built space today.
Cool. And there's a lot of talk today about smart building and smart building technology. Why is wtec different? How is it different?
So, there's a lot of technologies out there and more coming every day. There's a bunch of different levels to that as well. In the intro, you mentioned, Code being a cloud-based platform.
Right.
But then there's, the technologies that are actually installed in the built space, providing the data for those type of platforms. So we're going to be that kind of installed base in the built space daily, providing that efficiency from the lighting aspect, but also data collection. And the difference between us and many other platforms, one is that we come at it from a technology perspective. We're a technology company that does lighting, not a lighting company that tries to do technology. And from that perspective, we also deliver an A to Z solution. So you install our infrastructure from A to Z. The only thing in between is the data cables that we don't produce and the light fixtures.
Right.
The sensors, the power, the head-end units, that's all from us. So basically, when you deploy our system out of the box, it works. It's pre-commissioned, plug and play, and it's just a little bit more, easy on that front end, and also reliable on the back end. Especially when it's so important to get that data out to those building systems through different various APIs. Right. And we've been doing it now for going on 13 years in about 30 countries, and it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah. So I had to ask you a quick question. Intelligent, smart. Tomatoes, potatoes,
tomatoes. Not everything intelligent is smart, and not everything smart is intelligent. It just comes to using, we like to keep it simple. We see a lot of times people try to over the top and over engineer, but there's a lot of existing systems that work perfectly fine. It's just putting those pieces to the puzzle. It's a lot of the existing BMS systems are smart, smart enough, and they function well, but they need that data input to make them more efficient and function more effectively.
So that data input, is that the intelligence piece of it?
I would say yes, the intelligence.
Okay. So if we could, I really should change this to understanding intelligent controls, but smart, intelligent, okay, we'll forgive it. So I just think, if you want to take this very practically, like building blocks, so almost like envisioning, we got this, the modeling you do beforehand, the code, the reporting afterwards
Yep.
is data. It's data. Like you can't see data. So what exactly is the practical steps, the practical stuff you put in to make a building smart?
Yeah. So, from our perspective, I think it's, I had a great conversation earlier with someone in the UK. It's, a lot of this is just, everyone's saying save energy, save energy. Our perspective is let's not waste energy because, there's existing systems are in place and they function well, but creating that fine mesh sensor network to collect that data to provide the, we'll call it intelligence to those systems so that you can make that smart and sustainable building. From the modeling and everything is very, very important because if you don't have a plan, you're not going to have a target to hit.
Right.
And putting in an infrastructure like ours or something similar that gives you that ability to collect data. Data is gold. And without data, you can't act.
Right.
So I think, putting in infrastructures in place that are reliable and robust and have easy handshake capabilities to other third-party systems in the build space is one of the key drivers that we need to get to if we want to truly see, all the goals of net zero, carbon reduction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Without infrastructures in place that can provide the data to achieve those goals, you're going to keep spinning your wheel.
Right. And that's why you're coming from an IT perspective, because ultimately the lights are just the end point. They're bringing
It's
it
a
in.
means to the end. Exactly.
And to actually get to that place of data, you have to have that IT network that understands what it's perceiving. So tell me, you have been many, many places. Okay. I know you're widely traveled. You've seen many companies do this. What are the motivations for going smart?
Obviously, every region is a little bit different, whether you're in Singapore, the UK, Germany, the US, but at the end, high level, it depends if you're from the tenant occupier side or the developer landlord side. Obviously, from the tenant occupier side, they want to, build their space as cost effectively as possible. They want to ensure that their operation costs are as low as possible. And one of the main factors, whether it be their company ESG goals, which is, kind of still in flux where that's actually going to land, or the return to work aspect. From the tenant occupier side, of course, saving on your CapEx, saving on your OpEx is very important, but it's really providing a workplace that's exciting and it works for your employees in the build space. Many years ago, it was the Googles, it was the Metas, it was the big firms that were doing it.
Right.
But now we're seeing it every day. I mean, DES themselves, y'all had installed this technology almost 8 or 9 years ago. So it's great to see, that changing shift from your 1%, huge corporations to everyday businesses adapting these technologies because I think it's much more attainable now. But then on the landlord developer side, they have a different motive. In today's world where lease rates are low as we've ever seen them, inflation rates are higher than we've ever seen them, they need to build and develop their spaces and their buildings differently. One, to attract tenants, but two, to also provide that value to the building themselves. Every region shows kind of different valuations of a smart building. But, basically everyone can agree that putting smart and sustainable technologies into a building makes the building more valuable.
Yep. And that value could be, like you said, it's just productivity. It's a feeling. It just looks better. So on the, think about the looks, do you have a favorite install that you've done? Do you have something that it's like, I really like that. I like that one.
There's a couple cool ones for sure. Some of them have different, emotional, feelings. From my side, that was awesome. That was challenging. It was a great project. In recent times, one of the best ones we did was for a private equity client in New York City that was represented by Cressa and their smart building solution team.
Can you show it to us?
Yeah, I have a couple of pictures. Sure. I'll share it for you.
Yeah.
Present. So this is a private equity client space in One Vanderbilt. So one of the newest, most expensive, most high tech buildings in the United States in New York City. And so this space is fantastic. we're doing all the lighting for power and control. We're seeing about 0.2 watt per square foot consumption rates, which is about 70% more effective than what a traditional system would provide from the lighting. But we're also able to, in this case, we're providing all the temperature and motion data to the Schneider BMS system for HVAC. So they actually did not install any thermostats in this space. They're using all of our sensor data with their BMS. And then as well, on top of that, we also have a wall controller for lighting control that also has indoor air quality sensors built in. So they're using that same data, one, to measure wellness, but also to feed it back to that same BMS system to optimize the ventilation to ensure that, air quality levels and everything are perfect. Where you can, like in a conference room, is that, they're measuring the IAQ, the CO2, the VOC, and then that's getting fed in real time back to the BMS system to, crank ventilation up or down as needed. And it's, this space is fantastic. Floor to ceiling glass, Spectre Companies was the architect. They did an amazing job on it. The engineering groups as well were fantastic. And this is, for us, this is what I would consider this space one of the smartest in New York City, just due to the fact of all the systems they put in place and the thinking and the forefront that they did to ensure true, communication between systems and just an ease of use, on day two. Because everyone, for us, I think that, for me personally, if a user has to do stuff in the building to make it smart or to make it efficient, then we didn't design it properly. It should just be automatic.
Right. So that is a really elaborate connected space. Yeah. But you're saying that now it's attainable to so many other people. So is it difficult to put it together? So what's the actual, do you have to be very, very wealthy, to put it in very crude terms, to make your space connected? Because it's sensors, it's connectivity. I mean, obviously every case is different.
Yeah. Every case is different. The broad answer is no. Generally, it should be, CapEx cost neutral. And OpEx, obviously your savings are going to be there. So in 95% plus of the cases, it's going to be cost neutral or even less expensive. The space I'm in now, it's a 20-some thousand square foot space here in Jacksonville, Florida. The Link, it's a co-working community space. And we were actually about $60,000 less expensive. So about $3 a square foot less expensive than their traditional lighting package on day one, not including all the benefits of indoor air quality, integration to the BMS system, et cetera, et cetera. So in that case, we were actually less expensive on day one. And here, I believe he has a daily lighting bill of about $3 and change. And, he always refers to it as, I'm spending less than a cup of coffee a day to light this space. So he's really, the owner, Raghu, is very, very proud of this space.
Yeah. So you've got a big space. It could be a manufacturing facility in the Mon Valley. It could be somewhere downtown commercial real estate. Yep. It's almost like it's a no-brainer. Just put it in.
Yeah, we've done, offices from, as you saw in the pictures, very high-end Class A in Manhattan to, Class B spaces in the Midwest, data centers, education, all over the world. And it's definitely, every day it's becoming more and more obtainable as, everything kind of standardizes. But it comes down back to the early modeling, the early design, because if you don't design it in earlier, and it gets into that traditional construction process, then it gets a little bit harder to bring it back in if the train's already left the station.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where the planning and the modeling, and then having that. So, which brings me to my final point here: resources and recommendations. So, who's that person in the company who is the one who says we need to start this early before the train leaves? We need to think about this globally.
It depends on the organization. Yeah. Generally it's going to be your CTO, your CIO, someone on that facilities side. But a lot of the times we've seen the CFO be one of the main drivers. Obviously CFOs, dollars and cents, it's very important to them. And when they start running the numbers, they see it, and that, it's always great to have the CFO on board. But, it's going to be, whoever's responsible for the kind of the facilities and the planning of the facilities, they're going to be the ones that are going to be most interested in this.
Cool. And if they do want to learn more, Smart Engine wtec, follow the QR code. There's a download link on the website with a whole bunch of case studies. You have a YouTube channel with videos galore, and also they can always reach out to you or anybody here at DES. So this was an enlivening conversation. I really appreciate it. And we are up to our 15 minutes. So I want to thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Bye-bye.